9:15 this Monday morning, an author and Brighton native is sharing his new book, Around the World in 60 Years, which highlights stories and perspectives from men around the globe, all of the same age.
So this morning we're learning about the project and the lessons it uncovered. Joining us now is author John Wolfe. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back home, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You must be excited to be back in Rochester. As a Brighton native, I'm sure it's nice to come back to your roots to talk about this incredible piece of work, I want to call it artwork because it kind of is this beautiful work that you have put together. Tell everybody a little bit about it.
Well, it's a book that came about in 2023 when I was 59 years old. My wife and I took a bucket list trip around the world. And as part of the project, I wanted to try to find men my age, born in 1964 in the different countries. And I had a questionnaire for them about their country, life, family, work. And I was able to get about a dozen responses. And then and they were so thoughtful and so interesting. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get more. So I put on a real effort, and I ended up with 101 participants from 65 different countries.
That's really incredible. And I imagine, getting perspectives from 65 different countries, you're going to have vastly different answers in some areas of the questionnaire and likely very similar answers in others. Is that right? Very
much so. If you think about the last 60 years, I have 6 gentlemen who were part of countries that were behind the Iron Curtain. So Poland and Lithuania and Slovakia. And you think about how their life has changed over 60 years. Interesting. A gentleman from South Africa voted for the first time in 1994. Perspective. A gentleman from Vietnam. And so just the variety of places provides different answers. But the common theme of the book is that we have much more in common than in conflict.
That is really eye-opening. Just flipping through this is really amazing to see some of the answers. How did you come up with some of the questions? I just want to read some of them, just if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let me see here. What is the best thing about where you live? How has life changed in your country since you were a child? What's been the most important event in your country in your lifetime? Really deep questions. Kind of, at first, more like direct answers, and then it gets a little more emotional. Tell me about your family, the most important lesson your family taught you, your greatest pride. How did you come up with these questions?
Well, the initial questionnaire was 29 questions, and my wife said, no, that's way too many. And so we whittled it down to 13, and really I wanted to address the country and their history and events in that country. And then I wanted to really hit the emotional side of their family, what suggestions do they have for the next generation, their greatest fear, things like that.
Is there one answer that, or one question that received the same answer time and time again?
Well, it was the best time of your life. What is your favorite time of your life? And a lot of the men said right now. But then you had a lot that said, oh, when I was in high school, when I was carefree, or one gentleman from Sweden was from 6 to 10 years old when he spent time with his grandparents. Two of the guys were kind of funny. In the mix of all the people, I had great serendipity. And so some of the people have been married for 30, 40 years. Others have been married and divorced. There's 4 gentlemen who are in same-sex relationships. There's one gentleman who's a widower from Argentina. And so you just had a realm of answers across the spectrum.
What I'm just looking at this, there's one thing that I was hoping that I would see, and I am seeing it. You've got 2 questions in here. What's your greatest pride, and what's the best decision you made? And for so many of these men, those answers have to do with their significant other and their children, choosing to have a family, which I think is really incredible and speaks volumes to who these men actually are.
Yeah, the thing I think it comes across is these are 60-year-old men. They're the only celebrities. There's a rock star from Phoenix who's a heavy metal singer, and then there's a FIFA referee from Turkmenistan. But for the most part, everyone's just a average guy living the life, and you find that family is really quite important to them. One of the gentlemen that you'll see, I have two from Brighton. They're my classmates. One is Ned Hodgman. He lives in D.C. and he went to Harvard and speaks Russian and spent time in Russia.
Wow.
The other one is Ron Cooper, and he's a buddy of mine. He lives in Greece, and he had a great answer to the best decision you've made. He said that at the age of 45, he visited the doctor. And he said, you know, I don't feel so good. Maybe I could try to get a prostate exam. And the doctor's like, no, just don't worry about it. Just wait until you're 50. You'll be fine. And he's like, no, I really think I should. And so he writes in the book, that was the best decision I made, because if I hadn't done that, I might not be with you today.
Wow.
Abby, I want to just piggyback on something you said, I think, during the break. You called it a piece of artwork, and I mean, it's beautifully produced.
Yeah.
Yep.
It really is. Like, talk about a nice coffee table book.
Yep.
That's one right here.
Yep.
That's very, for somebody sitting at home who wants to get their hands on it, where can they buy one?
I have a talk tonight at Brighton Memorial Library at 5:30. I'll be at Pittsford Barnes & Noble tomorrow from 3 to 6 for a signing. I also sell them on aroundtheworldbooks.org and on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Perfect.
And there's a digital version you can get also. The other thing, I wanted to be here this time because Father's Day is coming up. And at the back of the book, I included a now it's your turn questionnaire that's blank. And the idea is that for your family, someone could fill this out, and now you've got a keepsake and a memory for your own family.
That's a great idea.
I was wondering if you had kind of done it, maybe not even on paper, but just in your head as you're putting all of these together. Did you kind of answer the questions yourself, and while you were reading the others, your answers change a little?
Yeah, my answers are in the book. They're the back of the book. And not really, because I really wanted to go from my heart and my experiences and the relationships and things. And when you read this, when you read through the different ones, what comes across is that these are thoughtful gentlemen who have a perspective. And it could be a guy who lives on an island in Cape Verde off the coast of Africa, and he's interesting. Might be the guy who lives on the island of Bermuda.
Yeah.
And it's a perspective.
Very
It
good.
really is. John Wolfe is the author. Around the World in 60 Years is the book. We'll post all the information you need to know on our website, foxrochester.com, after the show. Thank you, John.
Thank you so
very
much for having me. This has been great.